And you're watching Sporting Icons.
Now in this video I want to talk about Daniel Dubois versus Joyce. This weekend, BT Sport, non-pay-per-view, fantastic stuff. So first and foremost, we have to give huge props to both Daniel Dubois and Joyce for taking this fight with far less money than what was probably on the table originally. Because originally it was going to be on pay-per-view and originally there's going to be a crowd. Now it's not pay-per-view and there's no crowd. Okay, so we have to give them huge props, and both of these guys are quite confident that they're going to beat each other, which is why they've accepted the fight. So big up to both of them. Now, as far as the fight is concerned, of course, certain things to look at, and I know experts around the world have been talking about this one and trying to break it down and trying to get a little bit scientific about it. There's no need for it. To be honest with you, there's no need for it. Because the fact is, it makes no difference the fact that Joyce has had an extensive amateur career. He's been to the Olympic Games, all that kind of stuff. And so far, as a pro, even though he's had less fights than Daniel Dubois, he's probably had, well, his resume is probably a little bit better. Not massively better, but a little bit better, with the names of Brian Jennings and Bermane Stiverne. Daniel Dubois, okay, his amateur career hasn't been as extensive as Joyce, but it's still okay. It's still, 75 fights, which is about 30 fights more than Tyson Fury had as an amateur. About 30 odd fights more than Anthony Joshua had as an amateur. About 70 fights more than Dillian Whyte had. So let's not go with the whole, well, he had a very limited amateur career, and no, his amateur career was okay. It wasn't exceptional, but it was okay. And as a pro so far, I'm okay with his progress. I had no qualms with who it was that he was fighting. I know some people, they want to push him in right now. They want to see him in there with Fury and White and Joshua and Usyk and this, that and the other. For me, that was never the case. Progress him. I don't want to see him push too far and he falls off the cliff. So this is why I have to give massive props to him for taking this fight with Joyce, and the same with Joyce for taking on this fight with Daniel Dubois. So to go back to my point of, there's no need to be scientific about this fight, about who has a better jab, who hits heavier, who's older, who's younger, who's faster. Makes no difference. They both hit very, very hard. And that's the only important thing in this fight. I don't see no scientific skill being on show in this fight. I don't see it. I mean, it could turn out this way. Both of them do have a decent amateur background, so they both know how to box. They both have a very good, heavy ramrod jab. They both have that. But most importantly, they both have a huge right hand and can end each other at any point in that fight. I would not be surprised if this fight does not get out the first round or two. Honestly, I would not be at all surprised. I know people are going with the whole, well, Daniel Dubois early or Joyce late. I don't see it that way. Honestly, I don't. I've watched every single one of both of their fights. I don't see it that way at all. It never even occurred to me that that's how it's going to be. Because I know people say, but Joyce, he gets stronger as the fight goes on. Does he? Not really. Daniel Dubois, he will fade as the fight goes on. Really? I haven't seen that so far. When he fought Kevin Johnson and went the distance, he wasn't breathing heavy at all. Granted, he was the aggressor in that fight and wasn't getting hit back. It does make a lot of difference when you're getting hit back, that's for sure. But I don't think there's anything wrong with Daniel Dubois' engine. I don't think that Joyce is a particularly fast starter, but he's not a slow starter either. If he lands a big punch on Daniel Dubois in round number 1, he'll go for him. And it's as simple as that. So for me, it's a very, very hard fight to predict. And to be honest with you, first punch that lands is probably going to win the fight. I don't know about either one of their chins too much. I know Joyce, and there's like a lot of things made up about Joyce. He's got a very good chin, and it just hits him and it just bounces off and he keeps on marching forward. Nobody's hit him as hard as what Daniel Dubois can hit him. As in a professional ring. In sparring and that, of course. Now, sparring, is that going to have any kind of relevance on this fight? Arguably yes, arguably no. Because Joyce, he has been sparring the likes of Anthony Joshua and Martin Bacoli and so forth. Daniel Dubois, I know who it is that he's been sparring. And I know for a fact he's been getting them out of there. I know people who's been around the camp and he's been blitzing and knocking over his sparring partners. You could say, wow, Dan Dubois, that's phenomenal. It is phenomenal. But none of them were elite level. None of them have any kind of credentials like that. And him knocking them out early may not bode well for him if this fight goes into deep waters. It may not. Okay, so for me, I don't really like to see and hear about fighters just knocking over their sparring partners. I don't really like to hear that. Once in a while, that's fine. But if it's happening to pretty much all of them, that could be an issue. But in this particular fight, is it going to make any difference the fact that Joyce has been sparring Bacoli and Joshua and that, compared to who it is that Dan Dubois has been sparring? No. I don't think that it makes any difference in this fight whatsoever. Because they're both big punches and they both could end each other in round number 1 or round number 12. I don't see either one of these guys fading in this fight unless it's a war early on and both of these guys are taking each other's punches and the rounds are just ticking by. And as the rounds go on and on and on, I can see both of them fading a bit. Because it's okay to give out punches. Your energy gets more drained when you're getting hit, especially with the gut. But for me, who's going to win this fight? I have absolutely no idea. Of course, I've interviewed quite a few people on it when the fight was first announced, such as like a Fraser Clark, who knows both of these guys very, very well. And he says that he believes Joyce will do it. That Dan Dubois isn't quite on Joyce's level, and Joyce will break him down, potentially get him out of there, or most certainly beat him on points. Other people said that Dan Dubois is too fast, too aggressive. He'll catch Joyce. Joyce, his defense and all that, and he'll just get Joyce out of there. Joyce won't be able to take the punches. Now, I can agree with both of those statements. I don't think Dan Dubois can take Joyce's punches, and I don't think Joyce can take Dan Dubois' punches, which is why I think there's a very good possibility this fight ends very early. Not kind of early, but very early. Don't be surprised if this fight doesn't go past round 1. Don't be surprised. I'll be more surprised if it goes a distance, to be honest with you. And if it does, great. Fantastic. Now, the winner of this fight could potentially go fight maybe a Usyk for a vacant WBO World Heavyweight title, potentially. But the loser doesn't really matter. The loser can bounce back. There's plenty of time for them. I know Joyce is advancing in age a little bit, but he doesn't have too many miles on the clock. So Joyce losing and Dan Dubois losing, both of these guys can fight back and bounce back. I do put down the reference towards the Anthony Joshua and Dillian Whyte fight, where both of these guys were undefeated and they met at this crossroads. Anthony Joshua, he won the fight. He went on and fought for a World Heavyweight title. But Dillian Whyte built himself back up, where he is also a huge, huge name here in the heavyweight division and, of course, Great Britain. So there's no shame in, for me, either loser. And the winner of this fight is not guaranteed to go win a World Heavyweight title. Maybe the loser will be the one who goes on and fights for a World Heavyweight title. You don't know how boxing ends. But for me, I think that if I really had to pick somebody, I would probably go with Daniel Dubois in the first couple of rounds. I think that he's a prolific, fast starter. Joyce, while he can start quite fast at times, I think Joyce may want to feel the power to see if Dan Dubois' power is legit or not. And that might be his undoing. But for me, I think that Dan Dubois is going to win this one. I'm kind of like 51% leaning towards Dan Dubois, 49% in Joyce. So it's not like I'm heavily picking Dan Dubois. So don't go running out to the bookies or anything, taking my word for it, because either one of these guys can win this fight at any point. I'm really looking forward to it. I'm sure you guys and girls are too. Anyway, drop your thoughts below, click thumbs up, subscribe, catch you all on the next video.